Good morning, Professor Magnus and my team member Fahad. Today I will be presenting on the topic Environmental Sustainability as a Catalyst for Social Justice, a Social Work Approach. I will be highlighting Lina Dominelli's influential book, Green Social Work. Let's dive into how the social work integrates environmental sustainability with social justice. First, we will be starting by exploring what green social work means. I'll introduce you to it. And then we'll understand its practice and relevance, examine its connection with social justice and apply it practically, and finally engage in critical reflection. Dominelli stresses that environmental crisis profoundly impacts marginalized groups and it intensifies poverty, displacement, and social exclusion. She argues the necessity for social work to adapt directly, respond to these intertwined environmental and social challenges. Understand what green social work is. We are going to start by defining what green social work is. Green social work advocates a comprehensive approach by linking environmental sustainability with social equity. Unlike traditional approaches, it explicitly acknowledges the role of environmental justice, emphasizing the ecological harm that disproportionately affects the marginalized communities. Dominelli also stresses on two things, that is collective action and resilience building as central to sustainable change. We're going to talk about practice and professional relevance of social work. Historically, social work faced identity and professional legitimacy challenges due to neoliberal economic constraints and increased competition from fields like psychology, psychiatry, and related disciplines. Dominelli presents integrating sustainability as a critical solution by addressing environmental issues such as we've got pollution, related health crisis, and disasters as well. Social workers expand their role, gaining recognition as a vital agent of change. This adaptation demonstrates social work's unique value of promoting both ecological and social resilience. Now, to give you an example about this, I'll take an example of the disaster that happened back home in my home country, home state. There was a disastrous flood, unnatural flooding, and it caused like almost 7 to 8 feet of water from ground, and many of the especially the ground floors, they were flooded, and many people had to leave their homes. They were dead as well. So here what we are trying to challenge is the psychology and the psychiatry had nothing to do with this. What was needed was social work, social action. And how did that happen? The social workers started giving food, shelter, makeshift shelters. They created makeshift shelters so that until there is a possible solution where the water has come out of the houses and they can go back, they used it, and they made the makeshift shelters and let the people there. They provided clothes, they provided blankets, they provided food, and this is how social work is unique from all these other related disciplines like psychology and psychiatry. Now we are going to be linking sustainability and social justice. Dominantly extensively discusses disasters like Hurricane Katrina, emphasizing how structural inequalities like racism, poverty, and poor infrastructure intensifies suffering among the marginalized groups. Climate change increases the frequency of these disasters, hitting disadvantaged groups the hardest, while those least impacted often possess resources to mitigate them. Therefore, advocating for sustainability and environmental justice is directly advocating for social justice, challenging the root causes of vulnerability, discrimination, and marginalization. Now, I'm going to briefly reflect on this. Okay, so the example that I gave in the previous slide of the flooding that happened in my home country, there was surely racism for the poor people as well as more or less rich people. Like for example, people who were living in high urban areas, they had more access to the, what can I say, shelter, food, and all the aid that was coming in. Whereas for the areas where there was slum, they had very less people. Social workers were more or less hesitant to go there. There was less aid flowing through there. And second part of this as well, the discrimination and racism as well, and the, what can I say, the impact, where it is said that the in the urban areas they had floors. So like if the water was in the ground floor, they had access to the first floor and they could live there. But for the marginalized group, for the poor people, the who are below the poverty line, who live in the slum areas, their houses were damaged, and for them being discriminated like that, it was very bad, because the makeshift shelters, it was more accessible in the urban areas than the slum areas, because obviously the workers were hesitant to go there. The aid was not flowing as much as it was flowing in the urban areas. And here what I would like to point out is that there should be non-discriminate social work, non-marginalized social work. This is my reflection. Now we are going to see how we can apply green social work concepts. Dominantly provides practical methods to implement green social work principles, renewable energy, community projects, local economic initiatives, and social enterprises. These projects empower communities by creating employment, reducing poverty, and enhancing social cohesion. They also explicitly reduce dependency on harmful fossil fuels and foster sustainability. Now I'm just going to reflect, or I'm going to tell you some few community projects as well as local economic initiatives. So the first community project that I would like to say is the colony, or what can I say, the area or the community that I lived in back in my home country. There we had a park. It was a normal playground, but what the community did was they changed it. They all invested money and they changed the whole playground into a garden. There was space for playing as well, but they added basically they planted grass all over the playground. There was some mud area as well to play more. But what happened was it completely changed the atmosphere of the park. The air was completely different than the rest of the community. It was a completely different place, fresh air. The greenery itself changes the mind. It was a very, what can I say, successful community project. And the second one is the local economic initiative. Back home in my country, they are rickshaws used. They are three-wheelers, and it's a taxi. So what they did, now they are, as EV taxis have been launched. What the government did was, I won't be going exactly into the amount, but I will just say like a hypothetical amount. If the EV taxi, electric vehicle taxi, cost $50, the government is going to pay $30, and the driver has to just pay $20. So this is how they are reducing the dependency on harmful fossil fuels and fostering sustainability, even removing poverty. Now he's got a job, and that's how the what can I say, they implemented a green social work concept. Now's the critical reflection part. Dominantly emphasizes adopting indigenous knowledge as a key strength of green social work. As I've always been saying, even in the previous during our lectures, that we need to remove the global north bias. We need to remove the Western dominant bias. Dominantly has always emphasized on how indigenous practices inherently respect ecological balance, community well-being, and long-term sustainability. Now we are going to critically reflect on these challenges that predominantly are focused on the Western approach, on for example, like consumption, profit-driven economic models, which often ignore the long-term environmental and ecological effects on the community, the consequences that are being faced by the community. Engaging these insights could significantly enrich social work practice globally. Finally, our conclusion. In conclusion, Dominelli's green social work framework demonstrates clearly that addressing the environmental sustainability is inherently tied to achieving social justice. As social workers, we have a vital role in advocating and facilitating transformative changes that are sustainable, equitable, and inclusive. Dominelli also argues that environmental justice is a key pathway to a genuinely just society. Thank you for listening. These are my references. The first one being the main gist or the main heart of my presentation, Dominelli's book, Green Social Work from Environmental Crisis to Environmental Justice, and giving academic presentations by University of Michigan Press.